G'day, guys. If you're watching the recording, my name is Isaac or Shrek. I host the Noob Spirit podcast. We're about to get into a presentation on spearfishing Panama with a local guide there, Robert Schmaus. Robert Schmaus. I'm going to let Robert.
Good evening, everybody.
All right, cool.
All right, so let's start this. Good morning, good evening, good whatever, everybody that is listening from all over this nice planet. I will share my screen now with you guys. Here we are. So let's do this. So let's start seeing what we can expect from this presentation. I actually created this deck because people is asking me more or less the same questions every time. So I thought like, well, would be nice to put this into a organized presentation where people can see some pictures, some information about what we do here.
Love it.
So this is the contents. We have the introduction where we will talk a little bit about where is Panama, what is the topography of Panama, how are the winds and the weather in Panama, how do currents flow, and why we have so many different species here, and also a lot of biomass. So we have a lot of fish here. Some idea of how deep we dive, because one of the typical questions is like, how deep do I need to dive? Is it okay for me for being a beginner? Yes, Panama is super beginner friendly. I will explain this in more details later on. Then the packages type, we usually disclose like the following, like liveaboards. So wherever you stay or your accommodation type is. So liveaboard means we are living on a sailing ship, a nice vessel, and we stay there for the whole duration of the spearfishing activity. Before and after, we can go, of course, to, I don't know, to have some jungle hikes and watch the Panama Canal, see the old city, Casco Viejo, and things like this. And the other accommodation type can be onshore. That means we're living in bungalows on mainland, basically. Part of this trip can be, but this is optional for people who want to do this, is a certified spearfishing course. I am a certified spearfishing instructor by ISA. I will explain about this a little bit later. A little bit of details about who the heck I am, why I'm doing this, and how you can contact me. And then the typical question is like, what kind of fish we can expect here in Panama, and what spearfishing gear we use. An interesting thing is like what people sometimes ask, why Panama? Besides all what I will explain later on. Actually, it's very fun to be able to travel the planet, to broaden a horizon, to see what other species are there, how to hunt them, move in a different environment. You can be surrounded, for example, people of the Mediterranean. They're super good divers, and they are not very much used to sharks, for example, or to some tropical waters where they can encounter quite massive fish compared to the ones we see usually in the Mediterranean. I mean, in the Med, there is nice fish as well, but they are not so, I mean, the Mediterranean is quite overfished, unfortunately. So when I was there many years ago, I did not find too much fish. Some points are good, but you need to be diving very deep and very good. That's why all these guys are super divers.
Yeah.
And then we will talk a little bit about spearfishing gear, how we use it. And you will see that's not too much difference to most of places, with some exceptions. So let's dive into it, literally. So the funny thing is, like, I did not know this. A friend of mine told me, you know what Panama means? And Panama is originated from an indigenous word from some tribes we have here that emigrated from Colombia up to Panama territory as it is today. And Panama actually means abundance of fish, which says it all, I think. So let's do this one and just go to where the heck is Panama? Well, Panama is located in Central America, as we see here. And we are super lucky, guys, because we have two coasts to enjoy. So we have the Caribbean or Atlantic coastline, and we do have the Pacific coastline. And the difference in kilometers, like distance-wise from Panama City to the northern part, would be around, depending how you drive, but I drive relaxed, so 1.5 hours, I would be there latest.
Wow.
And then you can advance along the coast, of course, which gives a little bit more traveling time. But it's in reach. So if for whatever reason we feel like the Pacific is not ideal, or we just want to see a little bit of Caribbean, for us it's super easy to choose which coast we go to. And yeah, it's very close. I think the distance would be around 70 kilometers.
Wow.
So around, like, what is it in miles? 50 miles or something like this. So it's quite easy. And the coastline, of course, being blessed with two coastlines, we have 2,500 kilometers of coastline.
Wow.
The fun thing, it's like Panama, it's not too difficult to access like other locations that sometimes we need to travel for like 1.5 days, actually. So mostly, especially for my friends in the USA, there is direct flights. Miami is like 3 hours. From Europe, there is flights from Madrid. There is different flights going to Panama. Even from my friends in the Middle East, it's not too bad. Best place for them to take over the next flight is probably in Istanbul, in Turkey. So it's quite good. Panama itself, it's not a huge country, and it's not that well known for a lot of people, which I personally love because we have less people here. Sorry, less people around. So we are really on ourselves on a lot of the islands, especially these 1,500 islands we have here. Mm. And the population in Panama is around 4.4 million. Around half of it or less, it's around the Panama City, which is the capital of the country. And the cool thing for people from abroad is that we can pay everything in US dollars. Yes, Shrek, you wanted to ask something?
Everyone flies into Panama City. Is that, if they're coming there to go on a spearfishing trip, they all fly sort of through there? That's the main hub?
Yes, that's our main hub, correct, yes.
Okay.
And it's very nice. It lies on the Pacific coast. I will show a couple of maps later. And there is a lot of infrastructure here. So there is hotels, there is bars, there is discotheques, there is nightlife, there is good marinas, police, banks, cinemas, everything you want. It's a very big city. We have a lot of skyscrapers as well here. Mm. So yes, I was commenting on the dollar. It's quite nice, especially for my friends from the US. For them, coming here is like shopping around the corner. They don't have to change any money, no exchange fees, so it's just straightforward.
Yeah, right.
The language actually speaking here is Spanish, but especially in the spearfishing world, a lot of people talk English. So it's quite smooth to come here and have a nice time while spearfishing Panama coastlines.
Cool.
Regarding the challenges to travel here, there are actually not really challenges at all. Besides, you need to pay your ticket. But like visa requirements are basically non-existent for most people that come here. So if you're from Canada, US, UK, European Union in general, Arabian countries, you don't need a visa. Different is if you stop or transfer in the US, then you need to fill in this ESTA form, but people know this. If there is anything people are not sure about the visa requirements, just go to the sites listed here, and you can see each country is listed there or not, and then you will know about the visa requirements. But generally speaking, there is no issues with any country that I know.
I think I looked last time. Australia and New Zealand, there were no requirements.
Yes, exactly. No, for Australia, no problem. So New Zealand as well. So why we love it? The title says a lot. It's an amazing place for beginners and experienced spearfishermen. And for beginners, also because you see here, first point is we have quite shallow waters. I will explain this further in a map in one of the following slides. I was living before in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, and we were used to dive shallow, but also deeper places. So for us, it was normal to be 25 meters plus or 30 meters if necessary for the amberjacks. But once I landed here in Panama and started spearfishing in this wonderful place, I realized I'm getting very lazy. I don't need to go very deep, actually, to find good fish. If you can, of course, it's a plus. But I will show you later some pictures, and I will share some stories about spearfishing here in shallow waters. It's crazy. So there is so much biodiversity in this place. And it's great for beginners because you can spend most of the time on a shallow place instead of trying to dive deep, and then you have very little bottom time, rest. remaining, and then you need to go up again to, of course, to breathe. So for experienced guys, it's cool. They can just go down 10 meters, 15 or whatever they want and spend a lot of their breath hold just on the bottom. And this ensures that they have a very good time to small fish to approach them. It's very fun because they can observe for a long time how marine life behaves and learn very quickly because they can spend most of the time in the ambush hunting style, meaning they stay just on the ground. I do this a lot. I do longer dives, but I stay like long on more shallow places just to observe things and learn. That's how I started spearfishing here in Panama. So for deeper dives, of course, you will encounter probably larger species as well. That's true. But it's not a must that the successful spearfishing guy of that day will have most success by going deep. No, it can be very random, to be honest. So I caught some huge fish in 5 meters. I will tell you a little bit about this later. It's very funny. Why Panama is good, and especially the Pacific Ocean, I will explain in the next slides probably. This is because we are having a lot of UNESCO marine protected areas. Those protected areas are the ones that you see in this tiny map here. I just stole it from internet. So we see here different kind of marine protected areas. And all this, what I call a fishy triangle, this is like a kindergarten or a nursing place for small fish to procreate. There is little pressure on them. There is still people going there fishing that they should not be fishing, especially the bigger vessels that tell us spearfishermen we are the problem. But well, actually, if you look at the sizes of these marine protected areas, I was researching on sizes of the area and just put them down here. Only Galapagos, which is one of them, which is here, which is opposite to Ecuador's coast and roughly from Panama, I think it's 1,200 kilometers away. So we get all these fish here, and only Galapagos Island is half of the size of the area of a country like Italy, for example. So you can have an idea. It's huge. All right. So where are these located and how the floor map looks like? It's very interesting to have a look on that to understand why we have so much fish. It's you see here Galapagos Islands, and the dates here are the time when these marine protected areas were actually founded. So since 78, Galapagos is one. Since 97, Cocos Islands, this belongs to Costa Rica, is one. Here there is a full ridge. It's not only a couple of islands. So there is a ridge going down here. And Galapagos back to the mainland, Ecuador, it's also kind of a ridge. And then we have Malpelo and Gorgona, it belongs to Colombia. And Coiba, this belongs to Panama itself. It's on the shelf here. This 38 islands around here. It's not allowed to spearfish there, of course. And in this part of the Eastern Pacific Ocean, we have a lot of big or very large depths, let's say. So we have, here it's extreme, it's 4,000 meters, and it goes very close to the coast of Colombia. And you will see here in the next map as well, there is like a shelf here. Suddenly, from 100 meters, you drop down to 1,000, to 3,000 here. So it's very, very deep. And deep means if there is winds on surface, the deeper waters might reach the surface at a given time.
Upwelling.
And there's a certain, let's say, flow of nutrients from the lower cold waters. And all this area here is having a lot of this, how to call it, upswelling of nutrients. So there is phytoplankton, zooplankton, so there's vegetable and small tiny animals that other fish are eating, like the whale sharks we have here as well. They love to eat that. So this probably is one explanation why we have so much fish here in Panama. It's crazy. And I was not aware about all this until I started to investigate it further, why we have so much fish here. And it's different on the Caribbean side. I will explain in a bit. All right. So here we have a little bit zoomed in, the same map actually. And we see here, I just depicted a little bit the shelf. The shelf means, here we have like a less deep, basin is not the name, but shelf here, that it's not even 100 meter. I just put 100 to remember easily, but it's like 80 meters, 90, 70. And then we have this archipelago, it's called Las Perlas. This is around 200 islands and islets. And here in between the islands, the depth will be not this one. It's far less. So a lot of this coastline, where we spearfish a lot also, it's not very deep, like compared to open ocean, not very deep at all. So we have different places here. We have here the Coiba National Park, for example. Here, spearfishing is not allowed. Some people do, but I try not to do things like this because, you should give some room to these fishes to procreate as well. And so here on the coastline, you see there is 500 meters, and then, of course, deeper and deeper. So all this, once there is winds coming, let's say from north, that is the case right now, what we call summertime, even when in the northern hemisphere, it should be called winter, but we call it summertime because it's a dry season. So all these winds from the north, the trade winds, they push all this, let's say, warmer water out to open sea. And then the natural reaction is if you push something out, something will flow in. And this is the deep waters, the colder waters from these basins there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how is the water clarity at the moment, Robert, with all of that up?
It depends on the days, on the currents. If we have, for example, when we had east current, it cleared up very nicely. Else, it's more murky, of course, because of all this mass of nutrients that is coming up. But then on the other side, it's like, well, it's horrible to hunt if it's murky. Well, of course, having a 4K visibility, it's nicer, but then also fish behave differently.
Yeah.
So when it's now colder, a lot of fish are being pushed up. So, we have this thermocline, instead of being like on, I don't know, deeper or larger depths, it's like less now. So after, let's say, 8 meter, 10 meter, depending on the currents a little bit in the place, but we find thermocline. That means all fishy that like to have it warmer because they are cold-blooded animals, they will stay maybe over the thermocline. So now they're pushed up. So we see all these pargos, which are the snappers here. We have different families. It's around, how many are there? 7 or 8 different pargo families we have here, or even more if you count the smaller one. This is all pushed up. So these red pargo or red snappers that we call achote here in Panama, they come up to the surface and they look like they're sunbathing. So you see incredible masses of them on the surface sometimes.
Wow.
So it's murky water bad. Murky water means fish will come closer to investigate you. I have a fun story that I had here. It was very murky that day. And a pargo, a cubera snapper, came close to me. I was deep, maybe 5 meters deep. And from the coast, maybe, no idea, 10 meters, was on the coast directly, on some rock formations. And this guy came in to investigate me, and his weight was 25 kg. So things like this with clear water can happen if you have a very relaxed body language. It all depends on how you approach fish and how you enter a territory of animals that are reacting or not to you. But murky water can mean very nice catches because they come closer, they come in to investigate you. You just change to a shorter gun. I use a 90 centimeter Rob Allen roller. So regardless of the brand, it's a short, nice, maneuverable gun. And actually, I use that most of the time, even when the water is clear, because I like to roam around rocks and look for the snappers. It's quite a fun kind of hunt. Instead of just being in clear water and shooting long distance shots. You can do this as well, of course. So coming back to the map here, we're explaining here Las Perlas and the different depths of the ocean. And now we zoom into this part, and I added a little bit, it's more of a gag by using Navionics. You see it here. So I entered, there is some options there, and you can enter something called safety depth. This is usually meant for vessels, of course. So you can have highlighted some areas that are 10 meters or less in depth. So in this case, all this blue stuff you see here, all this area means You can reach all that area just within 10 meters of depth. And now if you look at this from one side to the other, this can be like, I don't know, 100 kilometers. So this is very long, yeah? And you can see here, you could basically, I'm joking a bit now, go from island to island without missing a depth that is more than 10 meters. So it's within 10 meters. It's crazy. If I then put the option safety depth to 20 meters, so in feet, that would be like 66 feet. Then you see how much area, this is the lighter blue, we could access. So basically, if you're on one of the islands, what I like to do a lot is drift, let the currents push me where other currents will meet, because then theoretically, does not always work, but theoretical nutrients will go to the same spots as the currents. And if you're very patient, that's how I started to learn. Local guys don't do probably not what I do, because they know the area, they go to specific points. But some years ago, when I started, I loved to do this drifting between islands. I sometimes still do today if I can and I have time. And then you find all these nice currents, and you see the difference in how much things you can read. It's amazing. So we have partially kilometer Shrek that you can go out, and it's still below 20 meters. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. The funny thing, if I go back to this map, is like, that means that it's shallow, fish will not come in here. No. They come in here because a lot of the bait fish, they come in here to hide, especially during the night. So we find bait fish all around the islands. When you dive, you hear this click, click sound, of all the different fishes that are down there, which a lot of people think it's like the sand or small rocks touching each other. Say, no, that's clicking sounds of the fish, and it's full there. Yeah. So just by the sounds, when you dive, after you duck dive, you go here, you will see a lot of the sounds, and that's how we also try to find, okay, now here is the reef, we dive down if it's murky. But we will use marker buoys to mark a specific point, just to not miss it. So when the currents on top are moving you a little bit, you will still be able to very comfortably recognize the place where you should be going down, not to miss the nice, let's say, rock formation where we know there is some snappers and stuff like that. So yeah, it's easy diving. Here is another map of the more southern located island. And here you can see, by using Navionics, it's quite fun. Here the safety depth is still 20 meters. So you see, I just put a marker here just for fun so you can see it. It's 3 kilometers distance. It's less than 20 meters.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So much like big close together lines there. I'm imagining there's some beautiful structure.
Yeah, exactly, Shrek. That's why I personally use a lot Navionics, especially when I'm new in an area. So when I travel abroad, for example, and go to some places to shoot some doggies or whatever, then these lines can help you a lot to understand the underwater topography, how it looks like underwater. So if it's like slowly going down, which means like things like we see on the right, so big patches of the same number of depth.
Yeah.
So see here, this is all in meters. So 54 meters, 52. So, and you see this is 3 kilometers. So within 700 or 100 meters, there is no change in depth. So this is quite flat. Does not mean that there is no fish, but usually we'll encounter fish where it's steeper. So these lines together means they're not like apart by a lot of meters, they're apart by little meters. So it's going down steep. So yes, you're right. So basically, if you look at the darker places regarding these depth lines, this is places where it's getting steeper very quickly here, for example. So does it mean there is always fish? No, but because it can be steep and flat and there is no caves and no rock formation, there is no erosion building nice caves or fissures and things like this, then might be even boring to have a look at there. But you can look also to things underwater and overwater. So if there is a big cliff here and suddenly it's water there, usually the big cliff has some rocks falling down by over many years, of course, by erosion, wind erosion, stuff like this, or changes in temperature will make material to grow or to shrink, to expand. And then there is fissures and rocks will fall down. So you could imagine, there is a cliff. Underwater, it's even steep or not, depending. Usually steeper because there is a cliff. And you can see a lot of rock formations. And this is a place where theoretically, I emphasize theoretically,
Yeah.
not always, but there is a lot of places where fish can hide. So fish that like rocks, snappers, groupers, this kind of fish, they love to be around those structures, right? So yeah, so basically here is a lot of formations, and you can see like things of circles like this, or like you see here a little bit. There is some places where there's sometimes like a kind, let's call it like a pinnacle kind of thing that is not even touching,
Yeah.
sorry, the surface, but indicates there is a change in topography. And a lot of fish, if there is nice currents, they like to create a vortex, spend time around, especially if on top there is a lot of currents going up with nutrients, and there is all this nice, what we call bait fish here.
Mm.
And normally, if there is bait fish, there should be some predators around because they're very opportunistic. So yeah, so we use these maps a lot, or I use it a lot to travel abroad. To if somebody tells me, let's go to a place, let's assume I don't know this place here. I will assume I will zoom into this place and try to get an idea before. And it's a nice mind game, of course, also for beginners. So when I take some people I know with me or some students that are beginners, I tell them, look, the deepest place you will encounter here is maybe 10 meters. Okay, so they know, even if it's murky, I can have a lot of confidence in understanding that it's not like, ooh, scary place and it's 50 meters deep and I don't know where I'm going. No, just commit to the dive down to the 8 meters, 10, whatever it is, 15 meters, and you will find bottom. It's not deeper than that. So it's easy for people to, you know what I mean? It's a lot of times it's difficult for people to go to a place and just dive down to a place they don't know.
Yeah. I was just looking up, do you have another app that you use for tracking water movement, current, and temperature?
Yes, there is. Mainly, I use Windy, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Or WinGuru, which are similar. Probably they use the same database and they just present data differently.
Yeah.
But with Windy, we understand how winds are moving, water temperature as well. Yes, you have different modes in Windy. I think I select the one that is like Surfer, which shows you also swell and frequency of swell, so you can imagine also how much power this swell will have. Plus, then we combine it with local tide tables, because on the Pacific side, we can have larger tide differences. So between full tide and low tide, let's say, depending on the moon, of course, can be 5 meters. So can be 15 feet, 12 feet. So this can be large movements of water. So if you are in between some islands, I personally like currents. Of course, they will drain your power quicker than if there is no currents, but it's nice because usually you will see a lot of larger predators roaming around.
Yeah.
And if you think of currents, they can help to clear water, depending if it's the right current, right direction, and the tide and the wind, etc. And in currents, the larger pelagics, especially, or larger fish in general, they have the advantage compared to the smaller fish. You know, if I make a joke, the smaller fish is struggling to stay in the current.
Yeah.
And if the pelagic comes against the current, and that's what they usually do when they hunt, they have a very easy game to catch that fish.
Yeah, yeah.
That fish, I mean, by speed, by maneuverability is different, but usually smaller fish, they lose very quickly. Yeah.
I was just looking at Windy app then. Do you mind if I share just quickly?
Unshare, stop share. Yes, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Sorry. I was just looking at this. It looks like the wind is very good there right now.
Yeah, these last days, it's quite windy.
Yeah.
I mean, generally speaking, in let's say now we have El Nino, so everything is a little bit not like we expected. It's well all over the planet. If I see all these floods in Spain and Europe, but basically in the dry season, let's say January, February, March, we do have the drier season, and this is because the northerly wind, the trade winds actually, they push down all the bands of clouds that usually stay over Panama. And that's why we have a nice lush vegetation here in jungle, because it rains. But during those months, it's dry. Now with the Nino, I hate it because I like the rain. It gives a lot of this, everything is green, and every island, even if it's a silly small rock, it's like covered with some green stuff, and it looks like Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Now we did not receive rain for many, many weeks. So even before months, because of El Nino, the fluctuation and the weather is crazy to the bad. So it's not raining. And in the summer months, January, February, March, usually, we have these trade winds. And that means we have stronger winds. So for people who do kite surfing, some nice friends of mine, they do this. They told me, yeah, it's only good in this dry season. The rest of the year, the wind goes down, and then it's like, we have some winds, but very little. If I compare, for example, in Dubai, we sometimes had a lot of winds. Here, it's only these 3 months, roughly. Yeah, depends on Mr. El Nino, but roughly these 3 months are the ones that are windy. For me personally, I don't care. Like when I'm a spearfisherman, it does not change too much for me, besides that, okay, some water can be a little bit choppy to navigate on, but you don't have a mini panga, you have a bigger, larger boat, so it's not an issue at all. And also because we have all these islands, Shrek, we can always choose on which side we want to spearfish. So just the wind passes by, you don't even realize it's there. It's nice.
Love it. I'm sorry to interrupt your presentation there for a bit, Robert, but I like when someone's looking at maps, particularly Navionics, I do like to have a look at and use some other tools as well. But yeah, it's cool to have a look at it. I really like the way you explain the interaction between fish, current with bait, and the topside and the prevailing currents. It actually teaches people a lot about hunting and planning trips. It's good.
Yeah, it comes from that actually, Shrek, because when you travel, myself, I was traveling to different places. Thanks to the job I had, it was sales, and I had to go to a lot of countries, and then I always put a weekend or two in between and things like this. So I had to prepare, and I did not have time, like when you live there, let's take it easy. This weekend I go there, next weekend I go there. No, hell, I had 2 days. So I had to check on the maps. How does it look there? How is the currents? What is people saying? I went to forums, so I use tools as well. Yes.
Yeah.
This will not detach me from reality. I ask a lot local people. So here, the people I met here in spearfishing, they're super cool people here. Everybody here is really nice. I love the guys. And I learn from them a lot, of course, because I'm new to the area. I'm a good spearfishman, yeah, but I don't know maybe the area. Now, lucky enough, if I could say this is not too different to what I used to hunt in Dubai, or I should say the UAE, United Arab Emirates, because there we have 2 coastlines as well. So we have the Gulf itself, which is a little bit more murky depending where you dive, and then we have the open ocean, which is actually it's the Indian Ocean, and there we see dorados, mahi-mahi, and stuff like this, rainbow runners, much more. So I had to learn these things, and this knowledge helped me a lot here in Panama because it's very similar. Some species behave similar. I would say here I don't want to kill nobody's idea about Panama, but I would say it's easier to spearfish here. Much more, because there is much more biomass, especially in Pacific. I talk Pacific mainly, yeah? I will talk a little bit Caribbean in a second. But basically here, fish behave very relaxed. There's such a biomass that probably those guys that you met that day never saw a spearfisherman, probably. The groupers are very, how to say that? They're very dumb. You go down, you look right, and the guy is there looking at you. He's watching you. Yeah. So it's not a big challenge to catch these big groupers. I mean, it's nice and it's a challenge. It's a challenge to handle them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because after the shot, they're big. So it becomes a thing of you're having the nice technique to do it. And when I say this, I think about safety, lines entangling around you, big mess, your body not helping you properly. So Panama is a very good place to train how to handle these larger fish. I don't mean shoot the big Goliath grouper. Nah, I mean, people do it. And I understand it's fun, but I personally, I'm not too much interested in a fish that is in front of me and weighs, I don't know, 120, 140 kgs. That's too big for me.
Yeah.
I shoot the smaller ones. I do shoot. The smaller ones means 20 kg, 30 kg, 40. So still a good fish. But I shoot maybe, how many? I shoot maybe one, maybe two a year, not more. I like to film them. I will direct people, like friends of mine or students, to the place if they want to shoot one and they are from abroad, and why not? And we're allowed to take them here. There are many of them, especially now in the cold water. They can come up to depths of, last time I was diving with one at 3 meters.
Wow.
I did not even see him. I was in the current drifting a little bit, and suddenly this rock moved. The rock was him. They have this nice camouflage, and I was like, wow, there is a big meadow. So yeah, it's quite nice.
Yeah, awesome.
Let's go back to the presentation then. Screen share. So yeah, let's continue here. So what about the weather? Well, the weather in Panama, it's tropical place. It's more or less close to the equator. So we have nice weather. You see here this chart that I stole from internet. It's like 30 degrees, 32 during the day. There is some hotter places, of course. When you go up in elevation, the temperature will decrease, obviously, like everywhere on this nice planet. During night, it drops a little bit. So we have lows and highs. So depending where you are, it's nice to sleep. You don't use air condition most of the time, actually, to be honest. I just sleep with a little fan over my head. And the winter is May through December. And as I said before, summer, which is more the dry season, is like January through, April, mid-April, something like this.
Okay.
So when we expect rainfall, it's more around what I marked here. I mean, there should be more rainfall, but unfortunately, we have this El Nino this month and the coming months as well. So I hope it does change. But actually, it is like we don't have too much rain. And around July, August, October probably is the highest one by month if we don't have El Nino phenomenon into November. But then it's getting dry very quickly. And all this summer period here, there is no raindrop falling. So I personally like rain, even when spearfishing. It's quite fun, to be honest. Even if you have a storm and you're in the water, it's super nice feeling. It's really cool. So regarding water temperature, you see here it drops because of these trade winds that I was explaining before and I mentioned before. So most of the year, I will use a rash guard, which I love because of course, every free diver likes to dive with less weights as possible. Makes it easier to move around and especially safer when you're ascending, when you have an emergency, whatever, it's much nicer. So only during this period here, I use 3 millimeter wetsuits or sometimes 5 millimeters, because you can see here, if you are below, let's say 10 meters for the sake of a number, because can be 12, 15, whatever, depending on the month, it can get very chilly. So I use, part of this cold season, I use the 5 millimeter wetsuit. I like it. But this is because of the way I move. So I move very little. I like to prepare even during dives for my next dive. So I will be the lazy guy going slowly, and then my apnea or my breath hold for the next dive will be far greater, of course. But then I do not generate a lot of motion, therefore heat. So I need 5 millimeters. Other guys use 3 millimeters. Okay, so let's explain why we have this change in temperature. Well, you see here, in the bigger picture, that's what we have now. The northerly winds, the so-called trade winds, they push down all this band of clouds here that produce all these nice shadows and also a lot of water, of course. So we don't have a lot of rain here. Actually, no rain since a couple of months now. And during the not so dry season, the bands stay over Panama, over the isthmus of Panama. So that's basically the explanation when it's raining, when it's not raining. And the funny thing is, like, people ask me, why you don't go more to the Caribbean? The Caribbean is super nice. It's beautiful, of course. Who doesn't want to go Caribbean? But if the target is to catch fish, and you have students, you have guests that are coming over here, and they want to see a lot of fish, then probably this part in the Caribbean, it's more difficult to fish because there is far less biomass, there is far less possibilities for spearfishermen to catch nice big fish. And here we see why. Like 3 million of years ago, the small image depicts this, there was no Panama. So there was, like, let's call it like one kind of current system, and the salinity of the water and the nutrients were more or less the same. Actually, we have here deeper places, of course, than in the Caribbean place here. So up to 4,000 meters here, but that was like one thing. And now this is, of course, or now, since 3 million years, we have Panama in between. So this isthmus, it divided this, let's say, kind of one sea, one ocean thing into Caribbean Sea and the East Pacific, East Tropical Pacific. So we have a lot of nutrients here. As I said before, the salinity is lower. So for fish, they enjoy more lower salinity, most of them at least. And the temperature is different as well. So here it's nice and cozy most of the year, actually. And here we have this drop in the dry season, as I explained before. So that's mainly the explanation why it's better on the Pacific. And also now, if we look at the winds, as you showed before, Shrek, yeah, you can use some tools. This is a little bit old from 15 January. I should update this. But basically, you see Caribbean, there is a lot of winds. And suddenly here's like a small channel of winds. And this probably is mainly because we have here some mountain ranges. And here we have some mountain ranges. So in between, the air can channel through.
Yeah.
So we have some places like Las Perlas Archipelago I was explaining before that are affected, but not that much like other islands here.
Yeah.
All right. And here on this side, you see also there is not too much wind, which is interesting because by January, they said the water is still very warm here. And we were having fun in the cold water already here. Wow. Having fun because this cold water pushes up all these big fat fish and the maso fishes, you know. So we had here very early cold water compared to this area on the west here. All right. So if we see here now the topography of Panama, these are all maps from Google Maps, by the way. So you just turn on the, I think it's called, what is it? Topography or terrain. It's called terrain, and then it will show you maps like that. So here you see all these mountain ranges, and if I overlap on the same picture, the windy wind, the wind, how the wind flows, then you see here through this gap. If I go back and forward, you can see there is the wind flowing through this gap here.
Yeah.
The Caribbean side, it's yes. So the Caribbean side, it's more exposed to winds, more waves. We always think like, no, the Pacific has the big waves and things. Yes, for surfing, yes, but we don't get the storms here because the swell, let's say, comes from southerly directions. There can be different directions, and then they arrive in Panama. And we have great surfing spots all around here, so they are world-renowned. But the winds will impact the northern side. So this is the Caribbean side. It just rushed through. All right. Awesome. So, yeah. So in a summary, why I prefer the Pacific side, we have Las Perlas. These are these 200 islands and islets. We have the Coiba UNESCO area where we don't spearfish, of course. Also not even on the borders of it. Some people do, but we don't like to do that. It's very easy to reach because you just land in Panama City, as you mentioned before, Shrek. There is the airport. We pick up people with shuttles. We bring them to hotels. There is very nice marinas. There is even some guys forget their snorkel, or I don't know. There is shops directly in the marinas for spearfishing equipment. So it's really very easy and smooth to organize things with guests coming here, especially people from the US. They don't have so much vacations as people in Europe. So let's say they come over for 3 days, 5 days, and they forget something. And then if you need to check where I can buy this thing, so we don't need to keep any stock. We just go to the shop and buy it. It's there. So we have a lot of leisure possibilities. So Pacific, it's really nice. And then all these things that I mentioned about the weather, of course. Does not mean we don't go to the Caribbean. It's very nice. I love it. A lot of my friends go there because it's really nice and the visibility is nicer. But then you have to trade in, okay, it's more an experience for the heart rather than targeting a lot of big fish and stuff like this. It's more difficult to find fish there. There are more skitios. All right. So type of packages, this is whatever people want. I personally, as I'm a spearfishing enthusiast, I like to look on this kind of guests so that are doing spearfishing. But it does not mean that people should come here only like, I'm spearfishing, that's it. No, if you have a wife, if you have a girlfriend, and she hates that you're going on trips without her, invite her. We have a lot of space here, depending on what we want to do. So, but most of the people I personally entertain here is spearfishing people from different countries for different reasons. A lot of people from the Mediterranean, because they don't have the experience of shooting larger fish. And they're very good and experienced spearfishermen, partially. But, it's more difficult in the Mediterranean to find good fish. And after that, we do also general tourists. So some old mama and papa who wants to come here, we love to do this. It's quite funny also. So the places where we accommodate these people, that's how we do the trips, actually. So we have liveaboard trips where we're on a sailboat and we stay there for days. And then the sailboat has a panga, which is a spearfishing boat. And with that boat, we just reach the locations and we, get fish on board and things like that. And then we have the similar thing, but we sleep in bungalows on land accommodation. I will show it in a second. So some examples of what we do. If we are on a sailing ship, let's say we start from Panama City, we go to La Perlas. The sailing duration can be 5 hours, 6 hours, depending on winds. And if we start fishing mahi-mahis and some stuff in between. And then when we reach the place, this is like it would be our swimming hotel. Let's look at this like that. And then we use the panga, the outboard motor boat, and we just spearfish around the zone. This is just for illustration. It does not mean we really spearfish on these locations, but you can stay here. In the meantime, the mothership continues the trip. So we don't have to go back to a place to meet again the mothership. So it makes it very efficient to spend as many hours as possible spearfishing and not driving around in a boat. So then the mothership will pick us up and we go to the next spot. We can sleep there, we can have lunch there in between, whatever, and then we spearfish there again. A tour like this is not mandatory. This is a very large tour, to be honest. Yeah. Normally, you can do something like this here on the East Coast or stuff like that. This is a large kind of exploration tour. Some guys like to do this because they want to see everything, even the the furthest down island here that you can barely see, which is Galera. It's a very crazy place. I was there once, and it's really nice. So this can be some idea of how we do and why we do the sailboat. So we are really connected to sea 24/7 for 5 days in a row, for example. If we do onshore trips, the thing is like you need to go from one point, make all your trip, visit the different spots for spearfishing. Here's some pinnacles, stuff like that. And then you go back, but then you must go back. If we go with a small panga, even this image I don't like because actually we would start here and we end up here and then we just jump onto the sailboat again and that's it. So here, for example, you see here could be maybe 15, 20 kilometers that we move around. But here we move around 70 or 80 kilometers in one day, which sounds tragic. It's not, of course, but because we visit some other places in between. But it's true that you spend more time traveling, like making mileage on on a boat if you live onshore, of course. So let's have a look on this. So we would be sailing from Panama City, as I said, to Las Perlas. It can be different kind of vessels depending how many people join us and how big the group is. So the thing is, we can sleep on something like this. This is a very beautiful ship of a friend of mine. It's 80 foot, 2-mast monster. It has space for up to 8 persons comfortably, probably more, but we use it like in a way that everybody has its own bed. We don't share beds. And this is how it looks when it's sailing with open sails. It's a very beautiful design from 1965. So it's a very classical design. It's very nice. It's like you're on a ship of the Pirates of the Caribbean. And you see here, we have some tarp. So we can put up the tarp and have the tables outside. So I don't spend time inside, even there is air condition, but it's very nice to stay outside. It's a beautiful ship. So we have the layout of this vessel is like we have 1, 2, 3, 4 cabins, each of them with 2 beds. And then we have a bathroom here, etc. I don't use it a lot. I love to shower on deck. There is sweet water and salt water there to rinse gear, to do whatever you want to do. 6, 7, 8 is like leisure area, sofa area, reading corners. You can have lunch here if you like. I don't. I do it on deck. And then 10, 11 is like for the crew. 9 is the galley or the kitchen. So there is plenty of space. And you see we have here this panga here, this motorboat. So with that one, we would be traveling around the island spearfishing. And you see the beaches here on the back. They are very nice white sand beaches. So there is a lot of reefs here. And now this is exposed in the lower tide. In higher tide, the water will be closing this probably. This is a 35-kilogram roosterfish. This one I caught at 9 meters of depth only between this island and another island. So you see, it was my lucky day. I just went down and the guy came straight to me and, well, I could not do something else than just land it. We have whale sharks that you can encounter, especially in some time of the year. And as I said, we roam around these islands and there is really nobody literally for hundreds of kilometers. So it's really nice. So this is some pictures of how it looks inside, just as an example. Oh, sorry. So the saloon is like this. And you must remember it's 1965 design. So it looks like very old stylish, very nice. These are the beds. This is the area where you can read. A lot of times I just sleep there instead of going to my bed because we talk here a lot and then I just stay there and sleep. So it's really very nice place. And the crew can be different. So they can be different from Panama, from the US, from Cuba, from Venezuela, different guides. He is one of the sailors and the captain and the cook of that ship. So it's really a beautiful ship. You see it here. I'm standing on the bow. One of the nicest places to stand, especially if there is dolphins around here. You can make nice clips of them. Here you see the tarp and we are eating outside. So it's very nice. And the underwater world, I don't have too many pictures of the underwater world, like besides spearfishing, of course, but it's always like bait fish and a lot of fish surrounding you. It's really nice, really, really nice. All this, I repeat, is most of this picture or all of this picture are on the Pacific coast. So here are some impressions of the ship. So we make trips with friends as well. So people that is freediving, spearfishing, some of them just want to snorkel. Cool thing about this vessel is that it has this ramp here that can be lifted. So it's very easy to go out and in of the pangas, especially if there is a little bit of more of swell, which is not a lot mostly, but if there is swell, it's very easy to go in and out. So it's very safe.
Very cool.
Yeah. So typical itinerary depends on the people. So this is a very, very rough example. Some guys just come here 3 days, other 5, other 2 weeks. Depends a lot on how much time available they have. And it's a budget thing, of course. So On day one, usually people will arrive here. We pick them up from the shuttle, then we drive them to the hotel. If they want, we go with them to the city, have some fun there. Day 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. This is usually spearfishing days. You see here always breakfast and snacks on the boat, and if they want, dinner is included. And then the last day usually is the I go home day, so we need to be closer to the airport. So we might do some, I don't know, Panama Canal tour with them, enjoy the monkeys there, go with a boat on the small lakes that are on the Panama Canal and some tributary rivers, Rio Chagres and all this. And then we will make sure they are in time to catch their flight back home. So that's roughly what we do on a liveaboard. Now on onshore, it's similar, but we don't have the floating hotel, of course. So I will just jump this to explain this. So we go to some remote locations, which are not inside the Coiba Island MPA, Marine Protected Area. So we spearfish around here. Here is also some nice places. So it depends really what you want to do. So this is only as an example. Here it's nice. Here is a national park. So this street is ending here. This road, better to say, it's a beautiful road. It's newly made. So there is no potholes. So it looks like you're in Switzerland, but we're in Panama. And then we have all this lush green vegetation area. It's very quiet here. So if you're looking for nightlife, there is not a lot of nightlife here, but we can make sure there is nightlife by going to other places if you really need that. The place itself, it's here. It's one example of the places we can go to. This one I like a lot. This was a recommendation of a friend of mine, and he took me there with some other friends. We went spearfishing, and it's really a nice place. You see these 3 bungalows. The owner lives here. There is a swimming pool. There is the Pacific Ocean. It's like a couple of 100 meters to the shore. We take down the boats, and when we drive the boats down the road here, this road is very little transited, so there is little people using it actually. It's very little towns and villages in between, so there is not big multitudes of people living there. And then these are the 3 bungalows again. This is his water tank. Here we have the boats that he has. So it's very nice because with him, we can put all the gear into the boats. I even drive my car from here to here. I'm very lazy. So I put everything into the boats here. We can use the pool. So if there is, for example, breath holding training, which we can include optionally into the trips, we would do all the static apnea and things like this, explanations, how you breathe here in the pool. It's very nice here. He built this rancho, which is a covered area. So if there is some raindrops, like on these days, we stay below there. We can have a grill there. There is a pool, billiard pool there. We have drink vending machine here. So we enjoy place here. You can cook and do all the stuff you want into the bungalows as well, but it's not a must, of course. So these are the 3 bungalows again. There's a lot of parking place and space. This guy has even Wi-Fi inside, fiber optic Wi-Fi there. So people that like to post things on Instagram, you know, these fanatic people, they can have access there. You will see here now. I hope you can see the video track.
Yeah, you can see it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you see here is the living room, dining room, the full kitchen. There is stove here, microwave, big refrigerator, which is nice and empty. All the gear you need to cook. So if we don't want to go out, we can cook there. I prefer to go out because I want to sleep and relax for the next day. So this is an example of the bedroom. It's very big, very large. There's TV inside. And then you can have 2 or 4 beds inside, depending who will come and visit. This is the bathroom. So it's very clean, very nice. And this person, the gentleman, built this with very nice materials. So the thing in the jungle is a lot of things rotten, and then they smell a little bit like moldy, and it's a little bit weird. So in his case, this is new. It looks like a 5-star hotel inside. It's really nice, very clean. It's one of the best places I saw in the area. Really nice.
Wow.
And all this area around is private. So there is nobody coming in to disturb us or to, you know, to look around place. It's very safe place. You see the boat here again, parked with the trailer. So yeah, it's a wonderful place. Really nice. I think you don't hear the sound, but you will hear all the birds tweeting there.
Yeah.
And then the next here is you see the pool here below. You don't see it on the photo. There is a river down there.
Okay.
And this mountain range here on the opposite side, I understand it's also his property. So it's really lush green. Then we drive down with the trailers. You see here the trailers. We go down with my car or with anybody's car, and then we can launch the boats here in the river, and then we go out through the river mouth into the sea. So it's very easy to board and load everything, and we just cross out and go to the sea.
Nice.
And this is a typical view of all these hundreds of little islands that we have all over Panama. So you can have this, what people call, oh, there's a secret beach. It's not really secret. It's only that at low tide it appears. So you can spend time there. There is nobody there because there is a lot of tide. So there is no people living here. It's really nice. So there is some catches. There's a rainbow runner. There's some cubera snappers that my friend caught. Yes, it's a very nice play. This one, I think, it's also rainbow runner. Yes. So the nice thing is you can go to the sea and back home with the trailer. So we don't have to carry anything if we don't want to. So we leave everything there and then just we look at our catch at the place itself. So you see here the river, the boat. It was the first time I went there with friends. So these guys introduced me to this place. Very nice. So we use floats here or rail guns and reel guns, depending on what we want to fish. There's a friend of mine having a nice dive into the water. This is a small waterfall on one of the islands, by the way. So it's not even a mainland waterfall. I'm the lazy guy, so I go for pizza and pasta and local food in the evening, so I don't need to cook. Kills all my energy. I prefer to sit down lazy, have a soda, and eat something. Here's some nice catches again. So all these pictures just to share with you and give you an idea how it looks like there. So the place it's here, all this is lush green, beach is here. This beach is not the nicest one, but we just go on the boat anyway. And we visit one of the beaches on the islands. It's much nicer and they're close by. So you see the roof terrace here. So if there is a little bit of raindrops, we stay here, relax, have a chat with friends. These are the larger waterfalls, mainland. This is the river here. You can explore by 4x4. And then, of course, you see here underwater, bait fish. These swell amplitudes allow that there is a lot of water being oxygenated by the motion of water. So there's a lot of oxygen here that these little fishy, they love this. So you see a little bit how it looks like here. Yes.
What species is that on the bottom right there?
Bottom right, that's a cubera snapper.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They're
very nice.
Almost looks like an emperor species there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's because the water makes the reflection change a little bit the shape of the fish, but this is a cubera snapper. Actually, it's more round. It looks like very flat there. Yeah.
Robert, it's amazing. Like it seems like it's hard to choose. The first time I saw some of this presentation, I really wanted to do the liverboard trip, and now that I've seen more of both, I'm kind of like I almost want to do both. It would be hard to it would be cool to explore a bit of both locations, I think.
But it's possible because some people say, okay, let's do this sailing thing because it's an experience I never had before, and I really recommend it. When I did it the first time, I was like, man, I discovered now only. It's so nice. It's so silly. I did never do it before. It's a different story, a long one. So you can do both, Shrek. You can be like, especially people that has more time and vacation, like a lot of European guys, and where they work for corporates or companies that allow you 25 days, 30 days vacations. These guys come here for 2 weeks, and then it's easy. Yeah. And you can spend 5 days in Las Perlas, then go to another place like this one, for example, with the bungalows for some days, and even in between make stops and go spearfishing there, or change the agenda just because the wind changed. and we're not linked to one place. We have enough space and places to visit, so we just change spontaneously if needed. So you can do a lot in 2 weeks. 2 weeks is long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how I'm going to get this past my wife.
No, but you see, some people from Dubai that I lived there for 10 years, so I have friends there, very nice guys there, and they tell me no, but my wife will not allow. Say, bring her with you.
Yeah. It might be a challenge with 4 boys as well, though.
No, yes, of course, there is a that's a bigger challenge. That's true. Yes. So yeah, so basically, this is the possibilities for having a trip on a sailboat or on an accommodation that is on mainland. So yeah, this is a smaller Pargo Amarillo. Actually, I like to shoot these sizes and maybe a little bit bigger. This is because my wife tells me, don't bring the big things. They don't fit into the oven. She likes to do things into the oven a lot.
Yeah.
So, okay. And then she tells me about nutrition. She knows a lot about nutrition. So she says the bigger guys are full of mercury and this and that. So yeah, well, so for me, sustainable means I'm complying with wife's rules, but also to ethical rules. It's like I try to shoot things that are more ethical to shoot, meaning they already had fun, means they procreated and made some babies. Yeah. And not being the biggest one, maybe. Even I shoot bigger ones, of course, if I see one, because I'm a sparrow. But for personal use, I probably would go always for this, what to call it, medium-sized fish that fits the oven and are nice to eat and are good portions to fillet and process also at home later. So yeah.
Have you?
So coming back to yes.
Have you shot the Mexican bandit or barred snapper?
Yes. I actually shot one that my friends were making jokes on me because they said I killed the female's record in barred snapper.
Oh wow.
They were just laughing a lot because I don't care about records, But that one, yes, it was like, how much was this one? 19 pounds, something like this.
Yeah, that's big one.
Yeah, that's a big one. But the male record is much more than that. So I'm far from that one. That was a fun anecdote, yes. So this is a Pargo Amarillo, we call it. So yellow snapper kind of thing. So it's Luciano's family.
Yeah.
Similar. They're very fun to spearfish. They're not the smartest ones, so it's easy to spearfish.
We have some similar ones here, Moses perch we call it, but it's Lajanus, and we have several members of that family here as well. So like the snappers that you have, we have some similar ones here, but some very different ones there too, like that. The Cubera is cool, the mullet snapper, the Mexican barred snapper. These look like really intriguing. The roosterfish also like has an appeal all of its own. Like I've heard though that maybe they're not that good at eating. How do you eat the roosterfish?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I prefer to eat pargo than a roosterfish. Yes.
Yeah.
But one time I caught a smaller one. I usually don't spearfish them. I spared so far, I think 2 last year. So I don't know. I enjoy them. They're beautiful creatures, and they're really majestic predators coming in like very boldly looking at you. So it's not a big challenge once you see them to land them, or let's say to spare them, to land them maybe because they're strong.
Yeah.
But the meat, I bring some fillets to a friend of mine in the south, and we put it on a grill, and we made sashimi with it. He liked it. He said, it's close to some kind of tuna. I mean, if I shoot it, I eat it, of course. Otherwise, I would not shoot it. But it's true that it's better meat. Like a pargo is far better meat.
Yeah, cool.
Yes. So for eating, I would not shoot it probably. But if I shoot it, I would eat it. Yes. And it's bad. No, it's not bad. And a lot, it's the same like people in Hawaii say the giant trevally, the GTs are bad and blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't know how you cook things, but you can make them tasty,
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yes. So, yeah, so agenda would be similar, but then we live in the bungalows, of course. I do some, I will go through this very quickly because I don't want to bore people, but I do run certified spearfishing courses. It can be during the trip or besides the trips. So what we do is we teach about spearfishing, of course, but the foundation actually for me is the freediving part. If you're a good free diver, understand your body, how breathing techniques work, how to relax your heart rate, stuff like that. It's improving your spearfishing automatically because imagine the following. You can spend, 2 minutes underwater instead of 1 minute. These 2 minutes, it's really cool because you have a lot of time, especially when it's shallow, because you spend time just on your belly, being lazy. And a lot of fish can have time to approach you. The little lucianos, all the snappers and pargos, they come, they watch you. You can even make things like that to them and, scratch in the sand and move around. So the rule that you should not move and scare fish away, it's valid maybe in the mat. I would not move around too much in Mediterranean. But here, no, I even feel it attracts them. So with a good freediving basis and a good breath hold, you attract the smaller ones, then all the other around are understanding, oh, it's not a threat. He's moving around a lot, but I'm scratching things. So they think like I'm a ray or I'm a turtle or whatever they think. I have no idea what they think actually. Yeah, if you do free diving well, you're relaxed. Fish feel this. So this is a foundation. And then, of course, a lot of safety and environment. I talk a lot about safety and how to handle fish, how to rescue people, how to watch each other back, all the benefits of buddy diving that most people don't like to do for a lot of reasons that we don't have time to enter now into this topic, but that would be the foundation of the course. And I do this, I'm certified by ISA. ISA is the International Spearfishing Academy. And I do these courses with groups of, let's say, 4 people, 2 people. Sometimes I did 2 weeks ago with 2 people, but 4 people, it's a nice size of people. It's not too big group, so we have a lot of times to discuss things. So it's quite nice. And then basically the content is we have theory on the gear. We talk about conservation, what to shoot, what not to shoot, what are the ethics, what about coral reefs, how you anchor a boat even, I talk about that. Then in the theory 2, we talk about breathing up techniques. I spent a lot of time here explaining also how the human body works, because if you understand yourself as a system, then you're aware of the mammalian dive reflex and even the spleen putting oxygen into your body while you're having the mammalian dive reflex itself. So a lot of these little information pieces will help you to think like, wow, man, this is like a miracle. I'm a machine, I can do this, and gives you a lot of confidence. So the divers after this, in the pool, when we make the static, imagine this, right? We reach times, most of them 3 minutes probably. Some of them they don't, but most of them they reach 3 minutes, especially the younger ones, which is funny. They take it more easy, they're more relaxed, The older ones that are long time there and they have to prove that they have, I don't know, a lot of experience, so they are under stress themselves. And then the theory 3 talks about safety and emergency, as I was explaining before. Theory 4 is Spearfishing 101. There we talk a lot about techniques, how to hunt fish, how to attract fish, how to use different spear gun setups with floats, without floats, sizes of guns, rollers, other guns, depending what people want to. We have a lot of information there. And then at the end, you just need to score 80% of a multiple choice exam. So I did not have one guy failing. It's not that complicated, especially if you have somebody talking to you 3 days, you will memorize most of it. And we repeat a lot. So this is what we like to do. 3 minutes breath hold, dive down to 20 meters and handle fish that is, I just put 30 kilo there to have an idea. So you know how to handle fish, how to shoot them. Take your time while shooting them. Don't shoot from the front. It's not the best shot, to be honest. Shoot different, not to bend the shaft also, but it's easier to retrieve. What part of the body of the fish you'll be shooting at, things like this. So this is optional, costs around $500 US, and we love doing this. At the end, you receive a diploma like this, plus an ID-like certificate that you can have with you all the time. So, yes.
I'll go back to your books there for a quick.
Sorry?
Your books. I think they're a good thing as well. Do you?
I will mention them now, yes.
Cool.
Yes. I have them there because a lot of guys, when they ask me a question, which is not in the normal standard slide deck, I just open my book, which is in this format anyway, and I show it to them so they can understand. So a little bit about myself. I don't start with this usually because I'm not the star of the show. The stars of the show are the fish here and the place. Actually, it's so nice here. So I was born in Peru in Latin America. That's why I speak Spanish fluently. So I'm not a genius speaking languages. It was given as a gift to me free of charge when I was a baby. And I lived in Peru until I was 20. And then I moved to different places. My last location was Dubai for 10 years. And I reside in Panama now as a permanent residence. I'm blessed here to be here surrounded by two coastlines. And I spearfish pretty much around the globe. I will show you a couple of things here. So I've been surfing. I mix a lot surfing and spearfishing. So when there is waves, it's fun. When there is no waves, of course, you cannot surf properly. So you spearfish. Unfortunately, I had to stop surfing a couple of years ago. I had a little accident while snowboarding. So I do not do surfing anymore since years. But I used to do. So I went to different places to surf, but then I also did spearfishing. So you see Portugal, good surfing there, even riding some horses, catching some sheep in Portugal that I gave to a farmer. The sheep was lost, by the way, so I did not eat it. Some nice fish like cobia in the Arab Emirates. Things like this. I did this license some time ago, and since very, very long time ago, since 1995, actually, I do spearfish, and I also like to teach people, especially my sons. So here is my son with 16 going down to 20 meters at that age already. So they all lived all this water world from very early age on. Then I did a couple of PADI scuba diving certificates just for fun because I hate to be in a hotel and not do nothing during the whole vacation. So I just did some scuba diving certificates, which is very nice, by the way. This is the book I wrote, actually a series of books. I started collecting information in 1995. And as a matter of fact, some friends of mine saw this when I was explaining things, and I just showed them everything in a PowerPoint at that time. And they told me to publish this because it's quite a lot of information, obviously accumulated since 1995. So I did not start last week. It's a lot of information there. And I did that series because book one, I sometimes call it like a purchasing guide because it covers mainly equipment, gear, how to use it, which one you need, which one you probably don't need really. For example, carbon fins, if you just dive 10 meters and you have 3,000 other hobbies, don't invest in these fins. You know, you will have little surface time, little depth, like snorkeling, but you're spearfishing. You can even use snorkeling fins, to be honest. So book one covers all this, how to use, for example, float lines as well, how to use the knife, where to spike the fish in the brain, how to grab the fish from the gills, things like this. And book two is like going to the next step, is who are you as a spearfisherman? How does your body work? Breathing techniques. It's full of pictures. Both books together have 530 pages in total.
Wow.
So it's really, if I would have that when I was starting in 95, but I did not see a book like this, there were other books, but they did not talk about so much details. It was more geared towards a spearfisherman that already knows a little bit of spearfishing.
Yeah.
With these books, you can cover a lot, and there is a lot of images inside. I will not show you now because that's not the topic of today, but there is a lot of information there. Then I did some interviews with some guys that thought like I'm an interesting guy to be interviewed. Same with you, Shrek.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you for the opportunity, by the way. Love what you guys do, especially. I love the thing that you say, no ego, spearfishing. And I like this because sometimes spearfishing is depicted like, oh, you're only cool if you catch the biggest fish, and a lot of fish is on the boat. And I don't feel like this at all.
Yeah.
I feel it's like about enjoying time with people, and of course catching some nice fish. It's nice, but it's being out there and doing what you love to do.
Very cool.
So yes, I have a very humble website. Not website, sorry, YouTube channel. I'm now uploading a couple of raw videos because people ask me to do so. So I'm not good editing, and it's very little what I post there, but at least I have a little bit what people can watch here. I have my Instagram, which is Deep Blue Spirit 2. Why 2? Because Deep Blue Spirit is my older son, and I was too lazy to look for a name, and I thought that sounds cool. I just added 2. He was surprised. Say, Dad, that's my name. Say, but it's different. There is a 2 behind.
I didn't realize that's where it came from. Very interesting.
Yeah, because everybody told me, hey, you should have an Insta page, blah, 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 because you shoot nice fish and you can share nice stories. Say, oh, I'm too lazy for all this. But then I told them, well, actually, I don't do this because, and it was an excuse, I don't have a cool name for it. So that's why I never started it. And then I just chose the name of my elder son, Mike.
Very cool.
Yeah. What I love to do is exploration trips. If guests want to go into the unknown, they are welcome to join me as well on those trips, of course. You see in the background these topographic maps again. So I like to go to places where I think it could be good. And after checking with local guys, they confirm it's good. And then I go there. So yeah, I love doing this actually. I like to go to the same place again as well, because then I know the rocks and I have like a map in my head. And I know this cave is the Pargo cave. There is always this these other snappers, or even the yellow snappers I like a lot. Mullet snapper I like a lot. People say it's not the best to eat. Say, well, I don't see a big difference, but maybe my taste is not that sophisticated. So I love doing this. This is a yellow snapper you see. That's a size probably a little bit bigger that I like to bring home for my wife. So she is happy that everything fits on a plate and into the oven, and it's easy to cook. This place here is very close to Panama, and here within, actually was this rock, 5 meters depth, I caught a 25-kilo cubera snapper in murky waters. Wow. The raw video is my YouTube channel as well. Yes, it's very funny. Okay, the fish gallery. What do we shoot here? Well, I've seen African pompanos. I don't see them too much, to be honest, but I shot one. We have these broomtail groupers that a friend of mine shot. Very nice one. They're beautiful fish. They're quite smart, actually. It's not like the Pacific Goliath grouper. These guys are skittish and smart, and they have they maintain a distance to you. These are really fun and more exciting to hunt. Then we have the creval jacks, of course. They can grow huge. They can be size of a GT. So here you see, like, this is not the biggest one, but you see the size already. The meat is not the best, but it's a very nice fish to train the hunting skills, or let's say the retrieving the fish skills, because they go crazy, especially if you put a bad shot on them. You can do this on purpose to show students what they do if you don't shoot them well, and then you show a great shot. And they really go wide, and they're very powerful, especially the big ones. I love them. This is a cubera snapper. That is the one that I caught at 5 meter depth, which is crazy. This is corvina or mulloway or weakfish, how it's called here. That's one of the species. We have 2 different species here. It's another cubera snapper. So this size I like to shoot. It's good for eating. It's not the biggest one. Also, the biggest one, if we remember a little bit about ethics, the bigger ones have the alpha genes. So if we shoot them, we're killing these alpha genes being passed to the next generation of healthy babies and cubera snapper babies, Then we have golden trevallies with our jacks, actually. Different snapper again, yellow snapper, mahi-mahi dorado. This is a catch when we went with some friends. We were 4 that day, if I remember. And okay, these ones are not the biggest one, actually. I would not shoot them, but we have here the golden trevally. This is a robalo. It's a, how you call it, snook.
Yep.
There is a dark or black corvina, sorry, black pargo or cubera. Here we have these red snappers. We call them achote here. These are very nice fish. Then the other cubera, these are all these yellow snappers. There is a tiny mini cherna, we call it. It's a broomtail.
Okay.
We should not be shooting that size, of course. Then these are very nice eating fish. We call them Pacific Sierra here. They are mackerel family. So these are the little brothers of the Spanish mackerel.
Yeah, yeah.
And they grow, what they grow? Maybe 1 meter, that's it.
Yep.
So they don't grow huge, but they're delicious to eat. And I love to hunt them. It's very fun to hunt them. A friend of mine, Francisco, he's really good in hunting them. He's like the master of hunting these guys. Then we have this Goliath grouper here. This one, if I remember, was 35 or 40 kgs.
Wow.
So that would be a size that, okay, maybe this we could shoot. This is the Barrett snapper you mentioned before.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was, actually that one was the one of 19, if I remember.
The colors have changed a lot when they get bigger, like almost the bars have disappeared.
Yes. And it's funny you say this because underwater, some fish have some colors, and when you put them out, they start changing colors. Like mahi can be like silvery out of the water.
Yeah.
And under the water, they can be like green, yellow, or they can have even stripes when they're in hunting mode and they show aggression. It's like stripes. They can change the skin color. It's crazy.
Oh.
So yeah, this is kind of the fish we catch here.
Amazing.
Yes. So which gear we use? I will just jump through this. Don't go like this. This is an old photo of mine in '95. So I made some fun of myself and put some fake glasses on it. They're pink even. So yeah, beautiful. So that's of course a fun photo. I was a surfer. This is a surfing suit. And I had a reel gun, so not bad. At least I had a reel. One rubber only. It was not the best design. The shaft was 6.2 millimeter, I think. So it's not the ideal one for fishing or landing big fish without bending the shaft, obviously. Little kinetic energy in this light shaft. People say they're very fast. Yes, but I don't need fast. I need to have something with good punch that penetrates, make it through the fish, as I'm not spearfishing little tiny fishes. Instead of a fish stringer, I had a net. Very dumb of me, but I started then only. Yeah. So I put all in a net. It creates a lot of drag on the float, of course. I had this very old, mega stiff plastic fins, plastic snorkel hardware that hurts because I put the snorkel between the band of the mask and my head. So yeah, not ideal.
And the weight belt. Okay. And the weight belt, you look like Steve Urkel. It's way too high. How did you breathe?
Yes, and it's a nylon webbed kind of belt.
Yeah.
So in an emergency, you don't find the clasp because it might be on your back because it turns, it's nylon, so it does not stick to your body.
I love
and
this.
It's not so it's a mess.
This is excellent.
Yeah, I did not like it, but I did not know better that time. So
no. We all start somewhere. It's good.
I make Excel lists like this and share with my guests or friends or students, and they can put in here the quantity they need from the mask. Or be smart if you travel by airplane, like there is Mike, John, just whatever names, and everybody takes different amount of things. For example, gloves, we don't need to, everybody take 2 gloves. So if 2 of the guys take spare gloves, that's enough. Probably we will not lose more gloves in 5 days, Or spare shafts, smart thing is to, if you have similar guns or manufacturer of guns, you can have the same spare shafts with you. So you can share them with friends because they're using the same gun. So it's just some ideas, some food for thoughts. So what I use personally, I use these 2 mainly. So it's a 90 and a 120 roller. Both of them are roller. I like them because they have a thick shaft, 7.5 millimeter. So that's good penetration power and kinetic energy passed into the fish or through the fish if it's closed. They are propelled with 16 millimeter rubber, so nothing's fancy, really off-the-shelf stuff. And for bigger things, I have a wooden gun, that has a 7.5 millimeter shaft as well. And this has 3 bands, or I can even load 4 bands. Then I would probably jump into 14 millimeter bands. It's nicer to load, and it's a different kind of push into the shaft. So I just would engineer my way into the bigger fish with this one. But 95% of the time, I use the 90 roller, even in clear water. Even when I'm shooting these mackerels, sierras, because you can approach them, go very close to them. And it's very easy, as it's a not so long tube or gun, to correct in the last second the motion of a fish without moving, the whole long gun. Now, this 120 roller moves nice because it's a tube. So it's not like a wooden gun in 120 that does not move that quick, of course, as a very light, this is carbon, by the way, very light tube, and it's round, so it's very hydrodynamic. So even ignoring the brand, which is a good brand, if you have this kind of spearfishing gear for Panama, that's enough for what you need. Of course, equip them with a reel or use a float, depending on your preferences. Safer, it's a float, of course. Has some advantages also. For me as a buddy, it's very easy to spot you, even if you go down with currents and you have a crazy breath hold of 230, 240, and then you will pop up maybe 50 meters further and I cannot see you. Then a float line is better, of course. You can use float line together with a weighted clip that I can clip to my gun, or I clip it to my D-ring on the belt, which is a no-no for a lot of people, but I just use it to cruise a little bit, and then I drop the clip, and I use it like a stationary marking buoy for a nice place I found, or for my buddy to signal I'm there, but I will not have the float line on my gun because I want to turn around some rocks and things where the float line might be disturbing. So it depends a little bit where you fish and what you do. But this is basically what we do here. So the D-ring would be going onto the belt. I love to use drop weights because of buoyancy. For me, is one of the most important things for a successful spearfisherman, because you can accommodate between shallow dives. Then I put on 1 kg more or 2 of drop weight, so any brand is fine. And if I go to the drop off, where it's steeper, I would just remove 1 or 2 kgs, and then my body language there is very relaxed. While if I don't have these 2 extra kgs in the shallow, I might be somehow floating instead of laying on the ground and having a nice ambush, and some currents will push me around. So I like to do this. In case you use a reel gun and no float, a nice accessory, which I use most of the time, it's a belt reel. I attach it as a backup reel to the belt, not to the arm or somewhere, because I feel like it's like your working area with the lines, so you might get entangled there. So I don't like it personally, but it's a personal preference. And then I link this with a 1 meter bungee straight to the gun. Unless I'm diving around structures where this could be like entangling and it's not a very safe way to do it, then I would not use it. But if it's more open water and you're not between fishers and things, then I would straight attach it to the backup reel. So in case of a muzzle wrap or something gets stuck on the gun or whatever, you have still another. Here would be 60 meters of line that it's more than enough to reach the surface to breathe safely. And to transport gear, the most easy way to transport if you are doing transatlantic flights is have sport tubes or similar. This is a Series 3 hard case I have, but I have a lot of guns, so it's a lot of space. You don't really need it. If you go for the Series 2, I guess that would be the ideal one for spearfishing trips, because you can put your fins inside. You could put your weight belts inside if you package carefully, not to damage carbon fins with the weights. You can put your wetsuits inside. I have small bags with accessories to crimp things. Personally, I don't crimp too much, but some customers or friends have crimping, let's say, monofilament, and then they crimp sleeves and things. I do not. I use Dyneema. So I have their spare Dyneema rolls and stuff like this, just in case.
Do you provide weights?
You can go for a PVC tube.
Do you provide weights? Sorry to interrupt you, Robert.
Sorry, I did not hear you.
Can you provide weights?
Yes, of course. Yes. Thanks for mentioning, Shrek. Yes. Of course, for things that are crazy to travel with, it's weights. We have weights here, no problem. Yeah. So bring your weight belt because you're used to it. So in a case of emergency, you know how to grab it, etc. You know where you put your knife and things, depending how you populate your weight belt with accessories. But the weights itself, we can have them here, no problem.
What about for guys with weight vests? Do you have weights for those pockets?
We don't have, no, for this we don't have. But remember that only 3 months roughly of the year, Shrek, we will use wetsuit. Well, the weight vest, probably it's more used if you have very thick wetsuit. So let's say 5 millimeter plus. Else we don't use them because we have little weights, so we don't need a vest. It's more comfortable for people that have problems on the back. That's true. It's very comfortable to use a diving weight vest. But no, we don't have them here. We don't use them here, actually.
Okay.
I love it, especially during the 9 months where we don't have cold water. We dive with rash guard, so we have like how much? 1 kg, 2 kg. If we dive shallow, maybe 3. If it's very shallow, 4, which sometimes we do this in 2 meters because there is a drop off and you stay there like ambushing like a sniper and the fish will come and pass by you anyway. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
So that's would be it for my part.
That was amazing, Robert. That was amazing. That was very cool.
So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, we can chat now. We have a lot of time.
Baron said, thank you so much, Robert. Panama looks like an amazing. Sorry, I'll just have a look. I'll open it up here. Looks like an amazing place, and I'm sure I will see you sometime in the near future, Robert. Thanks for organizing this, Shrek. Very much appreciated. Very informative. Have a good night and take care. Ben, or Baron is his name. So awesome. Yes. I thoroughly enjoyed seeing a bit more of what Panama has to offer, Robert. That was very cool. And I'll share this video with the people that were interested. There were a bunch of people there on the list, and I'll put it up on the YouTube channel as well. So I think one thing we probably didn't ask was obviously they can reach out to you and just say they heard about the Noob Spearo, and yeah.
Yes, the most easy way people contact me actually is Instagram. So they drop me a message there, because if you change number or whatever, Instagram stays there for whatever time you live on this planet. So they contact me there, yes. They tell me, hey, I saw this in Noob Spearo, then I know, it's from Shrek. And then I guide them through the idea. And then probably what I will do is something similar like today. We do a Zoom call. I have one in 6 hours again with some American guys. And they will ask me certain things, or I will ask them, for example, skill level. I love to welcome a lot of not so experienced people because I have this tick of being a teacher.
Yeah, me too.
So I love to share ideas with them, and they are very enthusiastic because they get stoked very easily, and we have a lot of time to share ideas and to train. So yeah, they can just contact me, and then I will ask them skill level, what you like to do, which fish did you catch in the past, what was your worst experience, what was your best experience, and then I understand, okay, I can do this with him, or I can optionally, if you want, we can do the course during this 2 weeks or 5 days, whatever. It's only 3 days anyway. The theory we can do on the sailboat or in the morning or in the evening in the bungalows. So it's quite a nice mix for people. The idea is that people come here and it's not only I killed this fish. No. I learned so much more.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
So that's the biggest benefit probably for them.
So your Instagram is Deep Blue Spirit 2, all one word?
Yes, all one word.
All right. Well, if you're watching the YouTube video or if you're on noobspearo.com or spearfishingcourses.com.au, I'm going to have a bunch of links underneath in the comments or in the description. So reach out to Robert if you are interested in Panama, book him for a Zoom call and have a look at the possibilities. Because as you've seen, if you've stuck around to the end of this awesome presentation, it's got a lot to offer. And I think Robert would be one heck of a guy to go and do a trip with. Because I think when you do these trips, it's a bit like what you said, Robert. It's not just about shooting fish. It's as much about the people you spend the time with. And it's cool to feel like you're going home a bigger person, So I like this idea.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think, as I said before, Shrek, the biggest benefit is you I mean, that's the idea of traveling, to be honest. Broaden the horizon, go out of your comfort zone because you're not spearfishing places and fish, maybe even have half a day that is like the current is ripping and it's horrible, but yeah, then you see what can happen. So the learning curve is very steep when you travel and you're with good people that understand and share with you things. Yes.
All good. Thanks, Robert. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Shrek. It was a pleasure talking to you guys.